Welcome to the Mind of Reason. Today, I'll be talking about Kletka, a first-person horror / action multiplayer game where the main objective is to enter an elevator, otherwise named the Kletka, that is alive, and make your way down 100 floors, with each floor being randomized and possibly full of dangerous hazards, anomalies, creatures, and bosses. If you succeed and reach the end, then you must kill the heart of the gigastructure. Don't worry though, there are various tools and weapons you will find during your time in the gigastructure that will allow you to take on the dangers that lurk within. Hence the action part. It's a multiplayer game with a limit of about 6 players, which is pretty damn cool. So if that sounds up your alley, then give it a shot. But if you're curious to see more, then keep watching. I'll show you what my brothers and I experienced in the Giga. So the first thing that happens is you spawn in the initial room where there is mostly trash, some boxes, a guitar, which you can pick up and use as a weapon, or you can play a couple songs using the in-game emote wheel, and maybe a few bottles lying around. Now, the bottles are important for reasons I'll talk about when we get there, but all you need to know, the bottles don't take up an equipment slot, and you can hold an infinite amount, so always make sure to grab them while exploring the floors. They're important. Okay, now, like I said, they are super important, but I'll explain it later, so don't worry about that. Also, since I brought it up, you start with 3 equipment slots, a flashlight, and then you can crouch and punch, although if you punch a wall or, something that's not easily breakable, like boxes, then you'll get hurt when you punch. So the punch is mainly for breaking boxes that might have something in them. You can attack enemies, but you won't do much damage and are likely to die, so, use that as a last resort. Anyways, the next thing you'll need to know is that you are all prisoners, and thus your sentences are important. Always check your sentences, as they are buffs that'll help you in the long run, and they're randomized every single match. But for this run, my sentences were clandestine blacksmithing business, which means any items in your hand spend negative 20% less durability, a sham marriage to a member of the feuding Capulet clan, which gives plus 25% more health, and illegal appropriation of 2 identical spice packets found in the same package of instant noodles, which means I get 30% more luck. Pretty good run, to be honest. Like I said though, there are many different sentences with all different kinds of buffs, and these are just a few of them. Anyways, now we head into the Kletka. The first thing you'll want to do is grab this wrench off the wall and repair the Kletka. Wrenches are the fastest way and safest way to repair the Kletka. Then you gotta grab a fuel can from the fuel holder and fill up as much as you can. You never want to run out of fuel, because if you do, the Kletka will attempt to eat you. As for what happens if you don't repair it, I honestly don't know. I've never really let that happen, because there is an alternative way to fix it if you don't happen to have a wrench, which is to repair it by just interacting with it. But if you do that, there's a chance, I think it's, about like a 5% chance you'll get shocked while doing it, and it doesn't give much health to the Kletka, so you should really only do it if you absolutely need to. The same goes for fuel. If you have food, whether it's actual food or monster meat, which you get from killing monsters or destroying their corpses, then if you bring those to the Kletka and look at the mouth, you'll be able to feed it and it will use that as fuel. Just a nice little tip for you. But also, you're gonna find that out because the mouth actually doubles as a storage for any items you don't, you're not gonna immediately use and you want to store, right? Obviously. Anyways, the next thing you'll notice is the screen with the lever next to it. That lever is how you get the Kletka going, and the screen tells you the floors as you are going down. It may also display information about what you'll encounter on the floor you are currently heading towards, some of which includes upgrades, fuel, and other stuff. Most of the time it displays question marks. As for what upgrades are, well, what they are. I only know 3 possible things that the screen is referring to, but we'll talk about them when we see them. Now, the first thing we see on this floor is actually a machine with a sign that says live beer or live beer. I don't know. This machine is important as it's what you'll need to find whenever one of you guys dies. This is actually the main use of bottles, though there is actually one more use that I'll mention when we get to it, but luckily the economy is much more forgiving after the 1.0 release of this game, because before that, it would cost so much to bring an ally back that it meant if you died, you'd be spectating for a long time. So yeah, the cost going down makes for a way better experience. Next thing we see is a tripwire trap. Simple as it sounds, if you touch it, it does damage and also slows you down for a couple seconds. Following that is that we are currently in one of many biomes, with this one being the prison. That's pretty important because every biome has specific enemies you'll encounter. After that, we encounter a shop. Depending on the items there, you'll have wish, you save some bottles for the shop, as it is the currency you'll use for the shop, and another system I'll get into when it appears. Now here we specifically see a wrench, fuel can, and swag, which is just basically weed. And I mean, it does heal you, but it lowers your overall health for a certain amount of time, so it's on you if you want to use it to heal, or you know, just to be funny, I guess. After that though, you'll see that I searched some lockers, as they may have an item within them, though the chances for an item are they're much higher with locked lockers than the regular ones, but it still never hurts to check. There are other things you can open to see if items are in them, such as refrigerators, safes, and even doors, which will have a room that like I said, has a high chance of having some decent items in them. If you find lockpicks, that's your best bet at opening them, but you can also bust them down using melee weapons or even wrenches if you really want to, though that's not advised. The second trap we see here is a landmine, and it works like usual. You step on it, it explodes, though if you have a wrench, or a better version, the Giga Wrench, then you can use them to disarm the landmine and grab it and use it against enemies. So, you know, another neat tip there for you. Moving on from that, we see a massive frozen door. I haven't actually figured out how to open those yet, so I can't tell you what lies behind it, but hey, at least you can find that out yourself, or you can just look it up on the wiki. Anyways, next I open a couple of rusted fridges and pick up a cucumber, but it's not a regular cucumber. It's actually called a Lumminumber, and it's not food. It's a glow stick. Pretty neat. The next thing I encounter, or in this case, the next item I encounter, is a soap pun. It's just a melee weapon, nothing special, but it's better than using your fists. Nothing else interesting here to see, so we just head back to the Kletka and continue our journey. Okay, actually that was a little lie. Then my little bro mentioned that he found a megaphone and he wanted to test it out. Now I forgot to mention this, but that's because it's obvious, you know, a game like Kletka would include it, but this game has voice chat. We just never used it because I just did not care. We basically just didn't care, so yeah, apologies for that, but it is what it is. Anyways, we continue the journey, and this is the one last thing I forgot to mention about the Kletka. If you interact with the screen once you've stopped on the floor, then it will scan for nearby objects. And I mentioned it before, but you actually can upgrade the screen itself, which upgrades the scanner's range. Next thing we see is a tripwire trap, and me using the bottles as a way to safely dispose of the trap. This is an actual possible choice now because of the lowered cost of everything. Trust me when I say that you really had to hoard these bottles before, which made it a risk to use them in this manner. And after all that, here's the first enemy we encounter, which is a horde of flies, and it's actually the weakest enemy in the game. All you have to do is turn on your flashlight and look at them, and then they'll burn and die. And after that though, I had the misfortune of stepping into a small room with an explosive tripwire trap. Yeah, they can get real sneaky with their placements. Here's another type of vault door thing that I can't open, nor do I know how to. Obviously you need some sort of code, but you can't like enter it yourself, so it's likely you need to pick something up. I don't know though, I'm just speculating. And this is the second enemy we encounter, and it's attacking my bro Chicken Bread. Now this guy in particular is a mimic, though it only mimics the name. The clothes are randomized. As you can see though, he has a crowbar and does quite a bit of damage with it. That's why you don't use your fists. But aside from that encounter, you know, just to have a little fun, the game, which I did mention before, does give you emotes to use. Anyways, then we move on to our next stop, which just so happens to be one with an extremely low ceiling. Funnily enough, Chicken Bread's character is way too tall to enter the room. Nothing important here though, so we'll just get to the next one. The next enemy we see is one I haven't actually encountered before, and this is a special variant. To be specific, it's an electric elemental brute. When any elemental enemy dies, they'll drop one or more elemental essences, which are very useful, as you can insert them into the right stomach slot, then insert a tool or weapon into the left slot, and then digest the two, which will fuse the element to the tool/weapon. It makes it worthwhile to kill any elemental breaks, or it makes it worthwhile to kill any elemental enemies.
The little dude behind the counter is a little loud.
Hope you guys enjoyed that little break, because after that, an event known as the Samus occurs, which starts with an alarm and gives you a certain amount of time before a poisonous gas spreads to almost all areas. There are a few safe spots, but I still don't know where they are. Like, I've been in them before, but sometimes it doesn't work. Like, it's weird. So once this happens, it's usually best to get to the Kletka and leave the floor. But if you do end up finding the safe spot, then you'll be good, because the Samus board does end after a bit. Funnily enough, right after that, we encounter another curse, which is what these are called. And this curse in particular is called Storm. This makes it so that it's raining on the inside, and you're constantly at risk of being killed by lightning. Now, the lightning is easy to not get hit by, so it's not unfair, and the most it really does is keep you moving the whole time. Otherwise, it's not too bad to deal with. Alright, now here's another mimic. This time, well, only he has fists, so it was okay for me to have a little fist fight with him. However, surprise, surprise, he dropped one of the most goated weapons in the game, with its name being the Calic. Now, it's goated because it uses meat as ammo, and meat is very easy to obtain. You can get it from enemy and player corpses just by destroying the corpse with your fists. So as long as they're enemies, there is ammo. And, you know, there are a few better weapons, of course, but obtaining ammo for them is a lot harder. And in this clip, we actually see a decent gun known as the Junk Hauler. Now, I didn't know how to obtain ammo from it, so I never used it once I ran out. But you basically just have to look for junk piles, which are in the corners of every room, and then you can suck it up into the Junk Hauler or something like that. Like I said, I never figured it out. I just kind of saw that in the wiki. But yeah, it has even more accessible ammo than the Calic, but I still like the Calic more. Moving on, we encounter the Inmate, a ghoulish looking enemy that always has, yes, like these things called Coggies to throw at you, which they do a decent amount of damage. He also has a melee weapon of some kind, but at the end of the day, he's just another humanoid enemy, so it isn't really difficult to kill him. After that, we're just chilling in the Kletka when suddenly it overloads, causing it to stop on the floor all on its own. This is something you'll encounter sometimes that you just gotta deal with. There's no preventing it. In this case, it stopped on the floor with the Mist Curse. Now, this one in particular is very dangerous, as the more you move, the stronger the mist gets, to the point where you can't see anything. And if you go just a couple more steps, it actually teleports you to somewhere random. And as much as that sucks, we actually encounter something worse on the next floor, which is called the Concrete Chewer. Now, these guys are dangerous and will appear when you take too long on certain floors. You know, you can't really tell, it just kind of happens. And yeah, as soon as it happens, you essentially just have to head back to the Kletka, because they will non-stop harass you after that. But continuing on, the next floor we stop on is actually a dedicated shop floor. The difference between this shop and the one that you encounter regularly is that this shop has the Pit, which is a hole that you can toss items down in order to sell them and gain more bottles. It's pretty dope, and you should most certainly hoard items so you can sell them here. Now, following that, we actually encounter yet another entity named Gretchen. Though these guys are specialists, all they do is grab bottles off the floor. If you attack them, they will attack back, of course, but for the most part, they are harmless. Plus, they look kind of funny. Right after that, though, I noticed that this floor is actually cursed by madness, which does two things as far as I'm aware. One, it makes you hear whispers the entire time, and two, it makes fake items appear. Now, luckily, you can tell these items apart because they have an aura around them. Aside from that, your vision also darkens a little bit, but overall, madness is really not that dangerous. It's more of an annoyance. Now, the next thing that happened is something I find pretty awesome, actually, which is finding an item called the X Shroom. It highlights items near you, and you can even see through walls. The only downside is that you walk weirdly, but it's not that hard to deal with. What is a lot more difficult to deal with, though, is the next curse that we encountered, which is the Chilblain. Here, the floor is completely frozen, which will cause you to slide around and slip. This makes it easier for you to fall in traps and pitfalls, which only appear during the Chilblain curse. Now, after exploring a bit, we actually find this weird looking tall guy. His name is Chain Bearer, and he's a creepy looking dude that's wrapped up in chains. In my experience, he kind of just screamed at me before we all whooped his ass, but on the wiki it says he has an attack where he shoots a chain at you that slows you down and stops you from switching inventory items. Sounds kind of rough, but like I said, we didn't really have a problem with him. After that, though, we reached another mist floor, this time with a surprise encounter from the Big Head. He ended up killing me, so I figured now's the time to mention mention that when you die, you continue as a ghost, and aside from flying around, you can actually ping stuff so you can assist your teammates a little. But we continue our journey regardless, which includes finding this little guy known as the Eye Roller. He's completely harmless and is actually just there so you can pick him up and feed him to the Kletka. After that though, I run into the guy who just murdered Chicken Bread, and he's a warden who has the electricity element, which allows him to teleport short distances. Now that's cool and all, but at the end of the day, he dies to the Calic and everything is okay. But anyways, then we encounter our first major challenge as the Kletka overloads again and takes control, landing on the first boss fight floor. Now from experience, there are two choices for the first boss fight: the guy we're about to face and the Mother Concrete Chewer. This time, we face this guy named the Spudling. This guy's fight starts off easy enough. You just shoot him in his weak points, which are these messed up looking eyeballs. However, in the case that you do run out of ammo, which you most likely will, the arena has potatoes stashed in the ground that you have to destroy. These potatoes, which are named tubers, are what you use to kill the boss. Once he dies, he actually splits off into two, and then once you kill either one, they split off into many others. But that's the last time they'll split. So luckily from here on out, the rest of the small Spudlings die to one tuber. Overall, fun little boss fight that's pretty easy, and the music in the boss fight is pretty damn good too, as is most of the music in the game, to be honest. Anyways, once you kill them, they drop multiple elemental essences, which I'd say is pretty damn worth it, especially since the more you have of the same essence, the higher tier the fusion can be when you fuse it with a weapon. Following that major event, we now enter a biome, more specifically the factory biome. Just like the prison biome, the factory has multiple layers. Though the prison only has you go down or up, the factory is more maze-like and has many ladders you'll be using to get around. It's an interesting biome for sure. Two things unique to this biome are burning barrels, which I believe if you touch them they set you on fire, and the generators. I don't really know what they do and never bothered to figure it out. I usually just went on my way, but they do in fact exist. After that, I find the best upgrade in the game, the bag. This one gives you an extra equipment slot. That matters a whole lot, so snatch that shit as soon as you see it. You won't regret it. Moving on from that, we encounter another curse called Post-Samaspore, which just makes it so that green sludge appears all around the floor and slows you down. Well, that and black magnetic sludge that pulls you into it. The slime doesn't hurt you, but it does make you susceptible to the slime and living cone enemies. Luckily though, since this is Post-Samaspore, it means you won't have to deal with the gas again. Moving on though, I actually spot a battery, which upgrades your flashlight duration before it runs out and has to recharge again. Now there are two more upgrades I haven't mentioned. The main one is actually the gear upgrade, and I actually forgot to show you in the footage. But you know, it just looks like a gear, like a big gear basically. You'll see it when you see it. To put it simply though, that one upgrades all three aspects of the Kletka, so it's a really good and really important upgrade. You know, as soon as you find out, make sure to get that back to the Kletka. That's like priority number one. And what it upgrades with the Kletka are the panel, which I already mentioned. It upgrades the scanner. Then it upgrades the electric panel for the Kletka, which makes it so that it has more, I guess you could say it has more durability, more health, whatever, so you don't have to repair it as often. And same for the fuel, right? It carries a lot more fuel. That's a, you know, simple upgrades. That's kind of why I forgot it, to be honest, because it was so simple. So yeah, but there is one more upgrade, but that one's super rare, and I myself haven't yet seen it. It's called the haste gear, and it actually makes the Kletka descend faster, which is pretty cool. But aside from that, I saw something I had never seen before, which is a moving landmine. Not much else to say except that's kind of freaky and annoying. After that, we actually run straight into the Glooper, which is an invisible creature that either just attacks you or can grab and take you away from your pals so that they could beat you to death in one-on-one combat. I'd win though. But the distortion of the invisibility is noticeable enough, so it shouldn't sneak up on you too easily. It's also a unique enemy to the factory, so that's pretty cool. I'm sure there's, you know, a lore reason for that, but I'm just kind of focused on the gameplay. Also, as you can see, when heading back to the Kletka, I see a living cone attack one of my bros. They aren't much of a threat, to be honest, but what is a threat is the explosive crawler. And if you don't have a ranged weapon, then don't even try to fight him. But if you do, then you're good to go. He is creepy though, yeah. And actually, we get a double whammy as an igniter appears, which is very threatening, as that bastard has a flamethrower, so you have to be careful or he'll incinerate you. Later on though, Chicken Bread and I actually encounter an electric cat roach. You know, a bit of a crazy combo there, but yeah, Chicken Bread ended up using a mine to obliterate the things, so we just kept trucking on. That leaves us to another overload, and this time, the Kletka has landed us on the second boss fight, which is a giant fly named named Assembly Error Number 7. In his first phase, he acts like a turret and just follows you as he shoots what looks like rusted coggies. Once you get his health down enough, he breaks out of the metal shell and flies into the air so he can dive bomb you. Once he dives though, he gets stuck on the floor so you can take the time to attack him. But aside from that, he keeps shooting coggies in the air with the addition of dodging your shots. It's a neat little fight, but not difficult at all, really. Cool music, though. But anyways, after that cool experience, we arrive in the flesh mines, and this biome is pretty cool, but very large, and you can get lost kinda easily. But it has a lot to it, starting with these flesh mounds that have items and weapons in them. The flesh mines also have enemies unique to it, and the meat worms are one of them. These disgusting creatures appear on walls and ceilings, and if they latch onto you, they basically bite you until you die. So yeah, very deadly and disgusting. Also in the footage, you may notice these big flies that were attacking the meat worm. Well, those guys are actually a result of getting the tooth sucker creature, which is a category of creature called the comrades, I don't know. They're actually allies that stick with you the whole game, even after death, and they all do something different. As of this current update, there are only 3 comrades, with the other guys being the purifier, which shoots poop at enemies to help you. Though I've never seen that guy myself, I did see one of my bros get the Drunkleton, which looks like a Gretchen, and he grabs empty bottles for you. All around useful and cute little guys to have around. But our journey continues until we encounter a baddie, not gonna lie, alright? Now, the flesh mines don't seem that bad of a place with her around. Nah, but for real though, this chick is called a witch, and when she sees you, she laughs at you and causes you to focus only on her as she makes her way towards you. As soon as you fight back though, it's game time, as she gets angry and tries to slash your face off. Also, funnily enough, in the wiki, there's a line that says, "Do not try to fix her, it will only end at your demise." And I don't know, guys, you know, I might take my chances. But anyways, I guess some of the mines in here also leave a splash of fire to throw you off, because my bro walked into one unknowingly. It was pretty funny though. Aside from that, Chicken Bread and I ran into a grubber, which looks wild but isn't actually that dangerous and dies pretty quickly. Nothing else to say about it really. However, I do have something to say about the next curse that we experienced, which is the Blight Curse. It makes everything black and white and old-timey, like it literally has old-timey music. It's pretty cool and makes you have cartoon sounds and physics. It's an interesting experience. But another interesting and or cool thing we figured out is that this big old machine actually gives you a special type of fuel. All you have to do is put meat ore in it, make the ore into a meat fuel can. It's pretty useful, especially since you have a decent amount of meat ore to mine. I forgot to mention that, but yeah, the meat ores and the higher tier enemies here make it so that the Calic is the best gun to have in the flesh mines. It really shines here. So you can imagine, since I love the Calic, I was like a kid in a candy store the whole time. Also had to throw this in here, but I obtained cuffs as an item and used them on my little bro, and it was the funniest shit ever to me. You can't hear it clearly, but I'm laughing pretty hard.
I can't even. What'd you do to me? Did you restrain me?
Yes, he did.
Dude.
Oh, there's a
I can't even
shot.
break out. I can't even break out.
You can't break these cuffs?
I can't break these cuffs. Hold on, no, I'm actually aura farming like this.
Okay, you're farming.
Look at me, dude. I'm like an old Asian guy.
So yeah, great time. But what wasn't great was what happened when we arrived on a floor that had the Inferno Curse, which had dangerous fires all around the floor. This leads to a lot of blocked off areas, but luckily fire extinguishers do exist and you're able to find them regularly. So if you do happen to find one, always make sure to keep it in the Klekta for these very situations. After that whole debacle, while exploring another floor, I ran right into a flesh weaver. These spider-like flesh abominations will ensnare you with its veins to slow you down so that it can jump towards you and ram you. It's disgusting, but for me with my Calic, I don't really see it as a threat. I just see more ammo. Now, I also later see a minecart, which you can actually hop in and use to get around the place. It's pretty awesome. What's also awesome is this neat little item I found called the Wayseer Eye, and it is a compass that points you to the direction of the Klekta, which is super useful to have in the flesh mines because they're so enormous. It's much appreciated, but what isn't much appreciated is the mounds of flesh that instead of holding goodies, they explode when you get too close. They are annoying, but mostly avoidable. They still suck though. All that said, the flesh mines can get kinda tiring, which caused this clip to exist.
I'm already like low-key sick of this place.
Yeah. Let's just get out of here.
It's just so long. Like you have to walk down the mine shaft.
Gravity, bro, gravity.
Okay, bro. I'm already sick of this place. Get in the minecart, buddy.
Fucking Get the
Get in the minecart.
on, then we craft.
Get in the minecart, buddy.
First we mine, then we craft.
Alright, I hope you enjoyed that clip, because now it's time for the end. It's time to destroy the heart of the Giga Krushevka. Now this is the end of the road, and this boss fight in particular is the most difficult in the game. I know, oh, well, it's the final boss fight, but, you know, if you played enough games, you know that not every final boss fight is actually the hardest boss fight in the game, but it actually is pretty difficult. For the first phase of the fight, the heart will rain down globs of acid from the air onto you, and will also have enemies with less health constantly spawning. Around the arena, there will be weapons and other items on the floor for you to grab and defend yourself with in order to give you a fighting chance should you run out of items yourself. Luckily, the Klekta is still around and you can use it to bring out items mid-fight. And it also has a live beer machine inside for ease of use. During this first phase, your main target is the 4 chains that are holding the heart down. You either want to use enchanted weapons to destroy the chains, or the better option, make the heart rain acid upon the chains. Once you destroy all the chains, the heart will fall to the ground and become vulnerable to damage. At this point, you must focus on killing the heart as fast as possible, because it will begin to overwhelm you with acid and enemies. And if you stay too close, it will jump and slam the ground and push you away. It's a fast and dangerous fight, but regardless, we persevered and ended the nightmare. Once the heart dies, all the other hearts in the room begin to fall, and thus end the game. Not really that cool of an ending, but the arena music and fight was pretty fun and a, you know, very satisfying experience. Especially, I mean, look at the area, the arena. It looks freaking awesome. Yeah, but that's actually overall how I would describe Kletka. Fun and satisfying. There's actually quite a bit that I didn't yet experience or talk about, as they didn't show up in this particular playthrough. But trust me when I say the game is well worth the money. Just grab a couple friends, give the game a go, because even though I've told you and showed you a lot of this stuff, there's a lot more to see. I mean, let me give you an example. Like, you're not going to see any footage of it, but one of the biomes I encountered was actually a large outside grassy area with a car being your main way to travel around. That meant, however, that you had to deal with enemies and cars coming after you as well. And that floor even has a boss fight with an evil possessed vehicle. Pretty cool. Not to mention there are plenty of anomalies we have yet to experience. So even though we beat the game, we are going to beat it a few more times to try to experience everything. Especially because there seems to be another possible final boss aside from the heart. Also, we're trying to beat it on harder difficulties as well. So yeah, game has a lot going for it, and they're even preparing another big content update. So if all that interests you, then you know what to do. I'm not going to give the game a rating, even though, you know, these are like, I call these game reviews. Try not to though. I try to eventually get a better title, because I'm not really objectively reviewing it, just kind of telling you, hey, I like this game, it's dope. So instead, take the video as a whole to help you decide if you want to buy Kletka. All that said, if you watched the whole video, I really appreciate it, and I hope you liked it. And I hope that also you comment, because, you know, I love reading comments, and that you subscribe as well to stick around, because I'm going to be making more videos. I'm going to do my best to make them come out a lot faster. But anyways, you guys are awesome. You know, have a great day, and I'll see you guys next video.